Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cadet First Class Lauren Blackwelder. It is my privilege to welcome you to the 31st Annual National Character and Leadership Symposium, and specifically the Class of 1993 keynote panel featuring 4 of the Air Force's 12 Outstanding Airmen of the Year for 2023. Please join me in recognizing our generous sponsor, the United States Air Force Academy Class of 1993. It is my pleasure to introduce our panelists, representatives from the 12 Outstanding Airmen of the Year. These airmen were selected based on their superior leadership, job performance, and personal achievements. We are privileged to have 4 of these airmen here with us today. Master Sergeant Kimberly Mastrocola, the Chief of Logistics for Rapid Capabilities Development, Air Force Special Operations Command at Headquarters, U.S. Air Force Special Operations Command in Humboldt Field, Florida. Master Sergeant Michael Galindo, the Chief of Weapons and Tactics at the 502nd Security Forces Group, Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, Texas. Master Sergeant Jennel Edwards, Standards and Evaluation Superintendent for the 91st Security Forces Group, Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota. And Senior Airman Kostiantyn Khymchenko, a heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration journeyman at the 633rd Civil Engineer Squadron, Joint Base Langley Eustis, Virginia. I am honored to introduce today's moderators for the panel. From the Center for Character and Leadership Development, Senior Master Sergeant Patrick Hunt and Cadet First Class Kiana Barwella. Senior Master Sergeant Hunt, can you please start the panel by explaining more about the 12 Outstanding Airmen of the Year program and follow with questions you have for the panel members?
I didn't know some of them gonna have a fan club out here. Who was that yelling? Okay, good deal. Good deal, good deal. Well, good morning, leaders of character. I'm Senior Master Sergeant Hunt. Thank you for the introduction. And these are 4 of the 12 Outstanding Airmen of the Year. They come from 11 MASCOMs across the enterprise of the Air Force, and they are truly the best the United States Air Force has to offer. Unfortunately, we only could have 4 on the panel, but we also have 3 in the audience. Could you please stand? Thank you very much. Now, back in October, some of the airmen came across your squadrons and was in your classrooms so they can experience what you experience on a day-to-day basis being a cadet in the United States Air Force Academy. Some of them jumped out of planes. Did some of y'all jump out of, none of y'all got to jump out of planes? Good, because I don't know who would jump out of a plane anyway. But, so, let's go ahead and get the panel started, and you can go ahead and start off.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So this is kind of a general idea of questions we're just gonna ask to the 4 panelists here. So can one of you tell me, in the context of fostering positive peer-to-peer leadership, how do you navigate challenging conversations within your team or unit?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that question. Can you hear me? So first of all, thanks all for being here, and appreciate the turnout. The topic of peer-to-peer leadership, I would say, is probably the hardest leadership muscle to work out, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you understand that. It requires influence. It requires your approachability. It requires your being humble. It requires a whole lot of things, but I'll tell you based off my experience, and hopefully you'll find some utility with it. So I was a military training instructor back in basic military training, and there's a job, it's called Operations Superintendent opened, and this Operations Superintendent oversees 5 section chiefs. We have 5 sections, and each of those section chiefs are a Master Sergeant in those spots, right? I was a Master Sergeant Select, so I was a technical sergeant, and I said, I'll put in for the job, right? I love to lead, I love to do the thing, let me put in for the job, let's see what happens. Didn't expect to get it, but my commander, my chief came out. They came out, congratulated me, and said, starting Monday, you're going to be the new operations superintendent. And I was like, holy crap, right? Because every section has a master sergeant in it who's some are eligible for senior master sergeant. And then as a section chief, they have master sergeants underneath them. So I was pretty intimidated by it. I was really nervous, and I'm like, I don't know how they're going to take me. I don't know what influence I'm going to have with them. So this is what happened. We had a problem in our squadron, right? Performance wasn't where performance should be. I mean, I think we all kind of go through performance issues, right? Teamwork, dynamics, unity. So the first thing I did is I brought them in. We sat at the table, and I had the section chiefs around, and I'm a technical sergeant looking at the master sergeants, and some of them who've actually been, some of them who are mentors to me, and like some of them I've got some good advice on and some good feedbacks and open to hear their opinions and their ideas. And so I sat down and I was like, holy crap, okay, so we have these things that we're not meeting, we have performance issues, but before we even do any of that, all I wanna say is I'm not here to lead your section for you. We're gonna get unified under a common goal, and then I'm gonna completely let you act autonomously. Like, it's completely up to you, but I really wanna foster this teamwork environment, kind of like a captain, right, of a sports team. So I wanna create this teamwork environment, and I wanna figure out how to navigate. So that was my first step to how do you navigate this conversation. So I operate off frameworks, and the framework was we're sitting at the table, there's obviously a problem going on. And so we sat there, we heard everyone's opinion, and we came up to a solution together. We came up with a solution together. We wanted to focus more on the military training instructor trainers on how we do the MTI thing. But we all sat at the table, I heard all their inputs, we collaborated, and we kind of were pushing through this thing together. And then from that day, one of my greatest mentors, Chief Hicks, she said, even though they're your peers, you're in a positional power, you take care of them, and they'll take care of the rest. So I was a technical sergeant. 3 to 4 months I put on master sergeant, but that was my ultimate goal. I wanted to take care of them, wanted to get all the obstacles out of their way, and that's essentially what I did. I just served them. So navigating the challenging conversations, we were open, we were honest with each other, we were humble. There were some emotional conversations on basic military training, yeah, so that's what helped me out.
Just to double back on the challenging conversations, how did you think cultivating relationships with your peers and the people you work with can help overcome those challenging conversations?
Yeah, very good question. One of the master sergeants that was sitting at the table as a section chief, I helped him transition to push his first flight, because I was an MTI before then. So I helped him transition, helped him out the role, his whole first flight, gave him a bunch of feedback. We had a very good relationship. One of the other master sergeants that was sitting at the table, I helped her get her master military training instructor blue rope, because I was already at blue rope at the time, and I helped her get the blue rope, dedicated a lot of hours. I stayed after work, and I worked with her often. Another master sergeant had just got to the squadron as a section chief, and I helped him transition to learn our section or our squadronisms. So I think, like you mentioned, I think the relationship plays a really big factor on it, and you build the relationship to continue this open, honest dialogue with one another, so that way the challenging conversations aren't so challenging. Get ahead of it and build that relationship.
I'll say that as a cadet, cadets can agree that peer-to-peer leadership is probably the hardest thing to do. Here at USAFO, we have to do that every day of our lives, right? And we have to kind of have those hard conversations with our peers. And so, especially as like whatever position you're in or whatever leadership position you're in, you have to have those conversations in order to get the mission done. So thank you for your insight. Reflecting on your leadership you had throughout your career, whether that be senior NCOs or officers, which specific qualities do any of you believe were the most beneficial for your personal and professional development?
I'll take that one. I had to make sure it was on. All right, so again, thank you all for being here. I think that some characteristics that I hold on to is like the integrity of accountability. I have been in plenty of situations in the past, but one particular that stands out is when my leadership made me feel isolated and like I wasn't a part of a team. If you can imagine going through an adverse situation and thinking, oh, I'm a part of a team, and then your team just completely isolates you. To me, when you break it down, it's like, as a leader, you're accountable for whoever your airmen are or whoever's on your team, right? But the integrity of that accountability is like holding yourself to that fire. It may not be a pretty situation, but as a leader, it's your job to take care of that member regardless of what the situation looks like. So integrity of accountability would be a characteristic that I hold true that was a lack, not for everybody, but was a lack in my past when I felt like I needed it the most.
said personal integrity and accountability. I like the way you put that perspective because we at USAFA, we talk about the leader character framework, and the first thing we talk about is living honorably. And living honorably is having integrity, being whole and complete, and being accountable, which means you're owning what you are trying to do with your development and with your integrity. So I appreciate your perspective.
KK, this question's for you. So, drawing from your experiences collaborating with the Ukrainian military, what valuable insights or lessons have you gained that you believe cadets and officers here can apply in their roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, thank you for this question. First of all, I would like to say thank you to class 1993 for this amazing opportunity to be here and speak on this panel. What about like lessons? I think best lessons for me, it will be helpful, and also I will be recommend to cadet use this. First of all, they need to understand like discipline is very important. For example, when I was in Germany like second time, I helped training Ukrainian special forces, and I met a lot of like officers and enlisted, Ukrainian enlisted. They like joking around, they play around, they like do like some like cool stuff. They try to be like kids, but when they go on and execute mission, everybody like listen commander, listen like they follow orders, and because they understand like from discipline depends their lives, and not only their lives, like their troops' lives. Second, it doesn't matter like what rank do you have, keep learning. We pass some intel information, like in Germany, like first time when I was in Germany, we pass information to Ukrainian military, to colonel, like some colonel, and yeah, he received this information, and he spoke with American colonel, and he like, oh yeah, sir, can you give me like a couple lessons in English? And end of my deployment, colonel from Ukraine, he increased his vocabulary, and he almost began speaking English like very clearly. And third one, it's like keep in touch with another service member from another branches, from another country, with our partners, because you don't know when they can help you, and maybe you can help them in some mission, especially if you know we supposed to be prepared for future conflicts. So yeah, thank you.
I thank you for your answer. NCLS theme is in embracing culture. How important was it for your team to embrace your culture? You being from, where are you from again?
From Ukraine.
From Ukraine. You being from Ukraine, how
Yes.
important was it for your team to embrace where you were from to help you move the mission forward?
Yes, it's like it was very like for me it was very hard because I also was cadet in Ukraine, and I was Custom and Border Protection officer. And when I was like hand selected for this deployment, and I feel like honor because when I go over there, I use all my skills because Ukrainian people they share information with people only when they trust you. So at first we have some like issues, but after when I begin help, they like understand, and we build relationship between American officers and with Ukrainian officers, and so I use my knowledge, my culture. We have like different culture; it's completely different, and in Ukraine, people they more not like chill, like they more relax, because also we have some issues. We pass information, oh, Russia will attack you like after like a couple minutes, and we lose communication with our partners, and colonels, like lieutenant colonels, they like was so confused because they tell me like, oh yeah, probably they die, and like and oh, no, I think they will be fine. And after when communication came back, we were like, oh, you fine, like everything good? They're like, guys, like, calm down. We have war. Like, sometimes communication can lose. So, like, don't worry, everything good. We continue doing our mission. So, like, relax, everything good. And yeah, it's a very fun time. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Reflecting on your leadership experiences, have any of you encountered a situation where a subordinate challenged your authority, and how did you handle it?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming in and wanting to hear our stories. I'll preface this by saying right now I work in a kind of a specialized position, but I came from maintenance. I spent 13 years turning wrenches. I loved maintenance, and to this day, I look back and I miss it. There were some days that were really rough, but it's where I got my roots. It's where I grew up in the Air Force, so I'm a maintainer through and through. So it is not uncommon in maintenance for a young staff sergeant or a tech sergeant to have several airmen that they directly supervise at the same time. And when you have several people, there's usually a lot of diversity in that group. Diversity with their why, where they came from, their motivations, what they want to do with their career. So you cannot lead everybody exactly the same. You have to just kind of learn everybody a little bit and see what motivates you may not motivate this person. And so when somebody does try to challenge your authority, it feels personal at first. But it's very important to remember that it is most likely not personal. It is. There's usually something deeper going on there, and you have to figure out why that is. Why are they challenging authority? They went through basic training, right? So they know how the rank structure works, so why are they doing this? I had an airman once that came in, and he was really guns a-blazing, but he came in and burned bridges with all of his peers immediately. He burned bridges with all of his NCOs, all the senior NCOs, and he was just difficult. And a lot of people were coming to me and they said, you got to get rid of him. But I could see something in him from day one, something about him. He had big dreams. He wanted to be the best at his job. He wanted to do everything right. And I thought, no, something just isn't clicking with this one. I don't think he's someone that needs to go out the door. I think we just need to take the motivation that he has, which is going in the wrong direction, and we need to harness it and go the right direction. And so I put a lot of work into trying to learn this person, and I learned that something that he was experiencing was something inherent to the human condition, which was he was having a very hard time adapting. If you think about it, going from he went from his parents' house to he joined the military, and now he's in AFSOC. He is in maintenance. We have a high ops tempo. We're working outside. You don't know what happens day to day. It's going to be hard for anybody. And I think sometimes a lot of us, we put on NCO. We've been in a couple years, and we forget how hard that transition is. And he was just really struggling with that transition. So I spent a lot of time with him, and he is now retrained. He is a tech sergeant. He is successful in what he's doing, and he called me several years later, and he said, Sergeant Mastrocola, I did not like you. And I said, oh, I know you did not like me. And throughout the course of that time, you also have to remember that you still have to uphold standards. I still had to many times pull him aside, and I had to say, you cannot speak to NCOs and senior NCOs that way. That is not acceptable. So we uphold the standards, but I never gave up on him because he never gave up on what he was trying to do. He never dropped the pack. He wanted to go in the right direction. He just didn't know what right direction that was. So it was very difficult, and there were a lot of times that I thought it would just be easier if you got orders somewhere else. But I thought, no, I need to get him in a good spot before we pass him off to another shop. So what I would do differently in the event that I could go back and do that differently is, like I said, I had a diverse group of airmen under me, and one of the other airmen under me was he was a total rock star. And we were getting phone calls from other shops on the flight line. They were saying, this airman, he's the best. He was getting praise from everywhere. There was one time, I guess he realized that he was giving back the wrong amount of change at some store somewhere. And he left and then came back and said, hey, you gave me $10 too many. And somebody noticed that, and they called the commander. So he ended up getting coined for integrity and everything. And so I didn't realize that airman was watching me the whole time. And all of your airmen will always, they're watching everything you do. And I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him because I was so focused on my others that were not doing the right thing, that I almost look back that I wish that I could have given some more of that energy to the ones that were already going in the right direction. But they're doing amazing. They're overseas now, and he's like, you're still my favorite supervisor. And I think, well, I didn't get to do anything with you. But he said, no, it was just watching you. I think it was helpful to him to see that I didn't give up on his peer that was maybe not doing as well a little bit, but.
I just want to double back to your story.
Yes, sir.
So you said that he called you years later and said, you know, I did not like you. So I know a lot of us as leaders, we struggle with likership and leadership. We want people to like us and respect us, but can any panel members answer the question, how do you know the difference between likership and leadership?
That is something that we work with a lot. I had told him, I said it was not my job to be your friend. It was my job to take care of you, to keep you safe and make sure that you learned your job. Because again, going back to maintenance, sometimes if we make mistakes in our job, it could lead to injuries or death. It's a big deal. So even small mistakes can snowball into big mistakes. So that goes back to that accountability and the upholding standards with him. And I said, I kept you. I maintained the standards and I maintained accountability with you so that you would be better for it. And I said that was so that you come out on the other side and you realize, okay, that was a good thing.
If I can add something to it before you move on, it's also about like representing each other, right? So likeness is just me letting you go past me, acting crazy, looking crazy, and that leadership element is like, I know you're about to have attitude, and that's okay. We have moved past that, but we represent each other. So if I'm walking around looking crazy or sounding crazy or just not upholding the standards, that represents everybody else in here in the uniform, right? So if I'm representing you one way, when we go out into society, they don't see Master Sergeant Edwards. They see United States Air Force. So if we are all representing each other and we're all doing it the right way, not everybody's gonna like that. I mean, there's people from my unit now, and they will tell you, like, I could care less about likership. Like, if you like me, that's great, right? But I'm not here for you to like me. I'm here to lead you. One day I'm gonna leave, and you're gonna have to replace me. So you need to understand what that looks like and what it should look like.
Thank you. Given the demanding environment at the academy where many cadets may find it challenging to find balance, is there any insight or advice that any of you can share on balancing personal pursuits while still meeting mission demands?
I think it's less balance and more harmonizing, because all of your airmen don't. All of your airmen are going to be different, right? Your team's going to be made up of so many different personalities and characteristics. What I'm learning now, right, is it's not always about giving people their time back. Like when I was an airman, they were like, oh, airmen only care about time, right? So we were like, boom, at this time, 16:30, everybody's out. What I'm learning is some people thrive off of getting their work done, right? So if you're kicking people out right at 16:30, now for the rest of their night, they're not gonna be able to relax, because all they're thinking about is that one last email they could have gotten out, or finishing that slideshow, or whatever it is. So now what I do is I kind of try to foster that behavior in my section, and I say, hey, at 1600, I want everybody to start working towards a place where you can stop. Because when you go home, I want you to have that time to yourself. If we think about it, like my teammate said, a lot of members are coming straight out of their parents' home, high school, where everybody's telling them what to do, when to do, right? Now they're in the military, and we're like, you're an adult. I'm gonna tell you a little bit. That person they don't even know who they are yet, right? And we need leaders who can stand in who they are, stand in their own character. And so I think that it's important to have that time to detach from work. But if they're just thinking about that last assignment they couldn't finish at work because you kicked them out, they're not focusing on anything but that thing. And while it's important, like, if nobody's gonna die in my career field, if a nuke is not going to be stolen and or detonated, it can wait until tomorrow, right? Everybody doesn't think that way. And so I think if we get to that place of harmonizing what works for them and what works for the mission so that we can kind of work together, I think that hopefully it's working for my team, and it allows us to catapult the mission to where we need it to be.
I agree with your statement with harmonization, and that's a skill that you probably should start young in your career, because when you're old, like myself, I know some of y'all young Thundercats in the audience, if y'all start that skill early and use that skill throughout your career, it would be easier on you and your mental state throughout your career instead of starting it later in your career. We don't care when you start, but we will hope for you to start it a little bit earlier so it can be easier for you throughout your career.
Thank you. So for the upcoming second lieutenants, about 90-something days left here, what advice could you pass on as they enter leadership positions in the operational Air Force?
My advice is be respectful and know your troops. Respect people because we're all different. We have different background, we have different experience, so be respectful. And if you know your troops, you can use these skills to finish a mission, and also you can help them to grow up and be very good leaders like you in the future.
Yeah, so my advice for the new LTs coming through is have a plan, and have a process for making decisions. You are coming in to be a lieutenant. We have high expectations for you, and you should have high expectations for us too. And if you have a structure or a plan to make decisions, then ultimately that's going to affect the organization, your section, your flight, your crew. It's going to affect them. So I would say when you sit at the table and you're listening to all the inputs, no facts and no fiction, have different COAs, and to be able to make that great decision. But I will say the academy grads that I've run into, they have a lot of confidence, and that's something that I love about it. Like, the confidence is great, but also stay humble. You come just because you're going through this path, and everything you're doing now is structured, right? It seems like you're running from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. I love it, been part of that life. But that's structure, right? You all are fundamentally getting like structure within your routine, and you all have plans right now. Keep that going, because you're going to get to an organization. You might get to an organization where the organization is not performing, but you've performed. For the past 4 or 5 years, you've performed, and you know that level of performance. It's all about your approach, though. It's all about your approach. There's one way telling someone, hey, tuck in your bootstring, versus, hey, let me help you out. Do you mind your bootstring sticking out? There's different approaches, right? And people like different approaches. So I would say have a plan when it comes to making decisions. Try to stay objective, no facts, no fiction, and continue to perform. Definitely continue to perform, because we need it.
I would say that make sure that you try to learn something new from everybody, from somebody every day. Knowledge is one of the best weapons that you could have. And just anybody above and below you. I like to go down to A1Cs in the shop sometimes. I'm like, what are you doing? Teach me something. And for one, it empowers them that what they're doing, and they can teach you something. It lets them know that what they're doing is valuable. But at the same time, it's just learning something new every day it's good for your brain, and it keeps you humble, it keeps you grounded, and it keeps you ready for whatever's next.
I would say, it's going to sound a little soft, right? But hear me out. I would say be human and have grace for other people, right? It's very easy, especially when you've been in the military a while. It's very easy to look at people and be like, how can you give up so quickly? Or why don't you care as much? I think it's important for us to understand that we're dealing with new age military. When I came in, there's an active conflict. A lot of these airmen are coming in, and there's nothing in front of them that they see as a conflict, right? So I think that we have to meet them where they are and just show them a little grace. I wasn't the best A1C when I came in, because we have that transition phase where we go from somebody off the street to a military teammate. So I would say be human. Make sure your team knows, like, I have rough days too, but also have that grace for them, because I'm sure someone had grace for us as we were coming up.
Thank you.
Senior Master Sergeant Hunt, Cadet Barwella, and Outstanding Airmen, thank you for sharing your conversation with us this morning. At this time, I would like to open up the floor for questions. Attendees may ask questions at the microphones positioned in the audience.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Keegan Hathaway from Cadet Squadron 17. My question to you all is, what is like your favorite story from when you were all airmen? I know we still have one airman, but the senior NCOs and NCOs, like, what was your favorite story when you were airmen?
I have my favorite story. When I just go to BMT, I almost cannot speak English. And when MTI, he began yelling on my face, I just stay like, yes. He yeah, like probably like 2-3 minutes. I like, yes. And he like, dude, step back and like, do you understand what I say? I like, no, sir. And he like, do you speak English? I like, little. And he like, okay, what is your main language? I like, Ukraine. And he like, okay. And he just go away. And I don't have any issues anymore.
I don't know if I have a favorite airman story. I was pretty bad. Bad is in a manner of like, I just had this attitude, you know, like I'm from the streets of Toledo, Ohio, and so it was just like, did somebody cheer? That's what I'm talking about, okay. So I had like this attitude that like I just knew what I was doing and I had no clue, right? And so as an airman, I know it's not allowed anymore, but like back then, I just got smoked a lot. Like, I would vomit and they would be like, come on back, I'm not done with you. So, I mean, I feel like those are valuable lessons for me because I never let them go, right? They build character. And although like that's not necessarily a tool that everybody agrees with, it worked for me, right? And I think that, I mean, I pay homage to my past leaders because that means they knew who I was as an airman and they knew how to get to me. So I feel like it built character, but there's not one time because there was plenty of times I was on the tarmac. So.
Keegan, I'll tell you my story. During basic, my Lackland basic, we had dust downs, right? You remember dust downs and having to wipe all the lockers down? So I was wiping these lockers down and we used to use these dryer sheets. And I was wiping the top of this thing, standing on a chair. And then they're like, all right, you're done cleaning, like stand at your bunks, get ready for inspection. I was the first bunk, so my MTI comes over and he stares at me and he's like, what is that, trainee? And I was like, what are you looking at, sir? And he's like, what is that? And so I couldn't see at the top of the shelf. And he said, there's something there. So I start trying to jump up to see what's up there. And there's like this little piece of dryer sheet that got stuck in there. And he's like, you telling me you can't see that high? And he's 6 feet tall, and I'm like 5'2". And I was like, no, I couldn't see that. I'm sorry, I missed it. He's like, you short people, and just walks away. But I guess the lesson learned is you can't take everything seriously. He didn't laugh, because obviously he can't laugh in our face, but he meant well, I hope.
Can't say I've had that problem.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cadet Jacqueline Turk from the University of Cincinnati, but born and raised in Toledo. Okay. I did have a question. So I'm an AS 400, and I'm about to enter active duty. And we've heard a lot of back and forth information about when you enter as a new lieutenant, don't change that much in your unit. And then some people are saying be confident and change a lot. And then I just kind of wanted to hear your perspective. When you are expecting a new lieutenant, what kind of are those expectations that you have for us? And is there anything I can do in advance to kind of prepare for that?
That's a good question. One thing that we appreciate is when we get a new lieutenant in the shop, we appreciate when they take a little bit of time and sit back and observe a little bit, see how things are running instead of coming in the shop and trying to change it immediately. Get a feel for how everything's operating now. Get a feel for the people, how the leadership's going, how the airmen are, how they operate, and then just slowly change things if you need to. I think going in with the intent of changing it is maybe not the best mindset. because then you run into change for the sake of change. And so go in with some deliberate trying to make something better and see what you can do with that.
I agree with my teammate. I would also say, like, culture is huge, and every AFSC has their own culture. So while you're in that observation phase, ask questions, because there could be something that you learned book knowledge, and yeah, we're still gonna use our books, right? But what's the culture of that unit or that AFSC? Like, what drives and what brings passion to your specific AFSC for the uniform? Because that could be a reason why things are moving the way they are. And then after that observation time, then maybe you jump in and say, I've been thinking about this, and maybe it'll help us move a little bit smoother or more efficiently.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So expectation. So I'm on the other side. I love change, right? I love change. A lot of people don't like change because that means we're losing something to gain something else. But I would say, accelerate, change, or lose, right? So as you go into your organization, make effective change. And if there's a lot of changes that we need to make in order to be effective, then make the change. Watch your approach on it, get the facts, right? And then kind of paint the picture on why change needs to occur. Because I think we operate in the Air Force with a lot of old type ways of doing things. We have a lot of more mature, they've been in a position long enough because it's us and our civilian counterparts and everyone else, right? So I think we need to pick up the change. So I'm right there with you. I just watch your approach, and just like my wingman said, like observe a little bit, see what the change needs to be, and then definitely make a change to affect the organization in a positive way. And yeah, y'all are going to be all LT, so your name goes on the form, and we just say LT sign this, and we're good. So yeah, that's it. Make the effective change necessary.
Thank you.
Good morning, y'all. I'm Cadet First Class Keelan Lorenzo from CS31. Earlier, there was talk about how, ma'am, you all the way to the right, or my right, you talked about how you wish you could have better taken care of that airman who's always doing the right thing. What does that look like? Like, how do you take care of people? How do you, I don't know, yeah, just how do you do that? When people are doing the right thing, how do you recognize them for it? How do you build them up from that?
Okay, so that's one of those things where you talk to somebody and you figure out, where are you trying to go? Airmen come in and they don't always know their resources. They don't know their options all the time. And so finding out if somebody does want to go to the academy, maybe they want to go to OTS, maybe they're trying to go to a certain school program that they just don't know where to start. It's that kind of stuff. It's fostering those, it's setting them up for success to be able to do that. It's making sure that we don't accidentally set them up for failure. And just helping them out when they have momentum and they have so much motivation, fuel that motivation. That's all it is.
Thank you. Oh.
I'm gonna add to it. Sorry. When you have a troop that is doing well and they're killing it, make sure you tap into, like, well, what are you struggling with, right? Because as my teammate said, there's so many things that we just don't know about. And so talking to that airman, they're like, is there a process for X, Y, and Z? And there may be, right? But I think all of us, we have professional development conversations all the time amongst ourselves. And the one thing that seems to be the consistent is people will look at you and say, that person's squared away. And because you're squared away, you're good to go. There's airmen who are struggling that need attention more. But like me, I have points of struggle too. And just because I'm okay in other areas doesn't mean I don't still need development. So when you have that airman who's like killing it and they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing, tap into that airman still and figure out how can we make that airman better. Because again, maybe they're not gonna replace you as an officer, but officers need strong and solid NCOs and senior NCOs to guide them and help them develop. So the more development is like a continuing of development. So make sure we tap into those good airmen too, because they need that development as well.
I'll add. Okay, so we all know we're a team, right? We're all a team, and we're trying to get this thing together. We're competing against China, so we're all a team. So we're as strong as our weakest link, right? And I figured this out in basic military training with seeing 1,000 different trainees. And the ones that always kept me up at night are the ones who were not performing, the ones who had low morale, and the ones who didn't want to be there. I'm always like, why do they not want to be there? Why can't they all just be like the rest of the high-speed trainees and the element leaders and the dorm chiefs and make this thing go. But just like they said, like understanding them, first you need to really understand what they want and then what they're trying to go to, because sometimes what they want is also tied to the military as well. They just don't understand what they want. And I think a lot of us trying to figure out our ways as we're growing, as we're maturing. So really figure out what you want and what you're willing to do for it. But yeah, those were the ones. That's a great question. Just how do you keep that motivation going for someone who's just kind of hanging out in the background? But like I said, we're as strong as our weakest link, so we need to see them as part of the chain link and see what we can do to bring them up. Yeah.
Thank y'all so much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lauren Coleman. I'm an AS-400 cadet at the University of Alabama, Detachment 10. My question is, on a cadet level, and then when I get to my first assignment, what has been the best way for y'all to have seen to get buy-in for new ideas that go against the status quo?
I think it goes back to what we discussed before, paying attention to what's already going on and what the culture of that unit is. It's not your generation coming in. You guys are coming in a lot more motivated for change and a lot more innovative. So it shouldn't be too hard. What I will say is when you come with an innovative idea, come with stats, come with numbers. Don't just say, hey, I think this will be great because I'm awesome, right? Come and say, hey, I've been paying attention to X, and I think we could get further if we streamline the program to go this way because studies show or statistics show or some, bring some numbers. And in the like active side, we talk a lot about what's in black and white and how can we push that forward. If you bring somebody something and you say, hey, we were talking about dress and appearance. Hey, your boots are untied or your collar's jacked up. The unit or the AFI tells us that we're supposed to be in uniform and present a professional appearance, right? That's black and white. That's something that you can't ignore. You can't argue that. So when you come with innovative thought, you may not have AFI to back you up, but bring something that's solid and solidifies what you're saying, right? So you don't have that back and forth combative, argumentative conversation. You come with an idea, you got something to back it up, and then you'll get that buy-in as long as you know how to present it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm C4C Curtis Jett from Squadron 37. Some of us coming into the academy have exposure to the military, such as if we were prior enlisted or from the prep school. What advice would you give about how we can leverage our experience for the betterment of our groups that we're a part of?
Great question. Just like you said, leveraging your experience. Leveraging your experience. So when you bring this experience in, how are you leveraging it? And I think just talking to a few of you and hearing all your stories, some of the issues that you all have when it comes to interpersonal, they're happening in the Air Force too, right? They're happening all over. They happen in any organization, right? Any organization, there are conflicting personalities, right? So being prior enlisted and coming in, leverage your experience in the way you, on how you go about business and how you communicate with your peers, how you communicate with the others. It's all in your approach. You really gotta, I just can't say anymore. It's your approach. It is your approach. It is the body language you come with. It is the tone you come with. It's the verbiage that you come with. And it's just, I'm here to leverage my experience and help the team progress forward versus, hey, I've been prior enlisted before. I think I know what I'm doing, right? Yeah.
I also want to add a little about experience. Yes, you probably, when you was like enlisted, you saw some not good officers. So use this experience and don't be this bad leader, bad officer. Be like much more better. So just use your experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, y'all. I'm Senior Airman Hendrickson from Minot Air Force Base. My question for you guys is, I'm stepping into the role of an NCO and a frontline supervisor. What's your biggest piece of advice to becoming a better leader or a better supervisor for my troops?
Know your people.
I was about to say, first of all, were you not listening this whole time? I'm just playing. I'm just playing. So a lot of people ask about my not, right? And they're like, I think just before this, I'm gonna just keep it real. I was very nervous. So I was in the bathroom contemplating my life, right? And a cadet walked up to me and she's like, hey man, where are you from? And I said, my not. And she said, is it as bad as everyone says, right? Fair question, but I think the more fair part was the answer. What I will say is, you are in my not. You know what right looks like. Even if not everybody is doing right, you know what it looks like. So you hold on to what right looks like. And then you add on, because even as a brand new staff sergeant, you've had experiences as a senior airman. Like my teammate said, you know what wrong looks like. Everything you go through is a learning experience. So you take those wrong things and maybe some ways that leaders didn't make you feel appreciated or valued, and you make sure you don't do that to your airmen. You take how you felt and you make sure you apply that to how you lead. And going back to like, you're at Minot, I say it's the Wild Wild West. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? But you take your experiences from Minot and know it's not as bad as everybody says. It's a big job. And if you can do that big job and succeed and plant that seed for other people to succeed underneath you, then I think that you're walking your path perfectly. Don't get caught up in the hype of like, oh, you're a staff sergeant, you need to make tech tomorrow. No, walk in that and perfect yourself as a leader and who you are right now, because every step you take, there's gonna be a new level for you to hit, right? So you should be continuously evolving and maturing in your leadership. So your leadership today and how you lead will be different tomorrow, as long as you're walking that right path of like being better every day. So don't let it intimidate you, right? You know what right looks like. Use that and walk in it.
Yeah, I would add to that. I did say, know your people, but just like Master Sergeant Edwards said, leadership is a journey. It's not a destination. You can take 1,000 classes, you can read 1,000,000 books, and there's no matrix to being a great leader. It's a journey. So every day you're trying to get better and better and better. It's like an endless mountaintop. So God continues to strive and be better every single day.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cadet Purvis from Virginia Tech, and my question is, how do we as lieutenants go about finding those senior leaders or mentors in our careers?
So hopefully they find you, so you don't have to go find them. So everyone has different personalities, right? Everyone has different, who you are determines how you lead. And so you'll naturally gravitate towards those who are kind of similar to you. A lot of my mentors, a lot of my coaches, they're very just like me. We have pretty much the same personality, but then I also have those mentors and coaches who are not like me at all, who have a different thought process, which is great, right? What was your question again?
How do we find those mentors?
Yeah, okay. So every organization, right? Every organization, believe it or not, but they have high performers, they have low performers, they have, there we go. So you're gonna have to find somebody who's similar to you. And I wouldn't say like stay within your section or your squadron, like definitely branch out, right? It's like everyone has Facebook and MySpace, but Facebook and stuff, like start learning to reach out. There's a lot of organizations you can be involved in, right? And through that, you'll start finding some of the greatest leaders. As a technical sergeant, I sometimes will lean on a staff sergeant because he was awesome. And I would ask for his input, and he was very influential to me. He didn't know it, I didn't tell him, but he's very influential to me and very good at like speaking really well. But find those who are similar to you, start the initial latch on, and you'll start creating this like circle. This circle of senior NCOs, these circles of NCOs who are going to lead you down the correct path. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can grab some airmen too to kind of mentor you as well. because the airmen are going to have the tactical expertise of doing the job. Us old master sergeants, things change. My old self, things have changed when we move up to the strategic level. So get with the airmen as well, because they have that tactical expertise and they can get you to nuts and bolts and actually doing the job as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. We have time for one more question.
I think so. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jaden Childs. I'm from California, Los Angeles. My question is even more technicality and basically what our leaders are saying. We've heard a lot about multi-capable airmen. We've heard about accelerate, change, or die, right? As coming in as company-grade officers, how can we, as officers, make sure that our airmen are becoming multi-capable and getting the resources that we can provide to them to accomplish that mission?
So, there isn't one answer, right?
Yeah.
As far as accelerate or die, that goes back to the question of innovation and incorporating that innovation, getting that buy-in, right? Multi-capable airmen, we are all multi-capable security forces more than anybody, but I digress. But it's really looking at your career field as a whole and seeing, sorry, I'm a defender, so I can only speak to the Defender Nation, right? But as a defender, we have airmen who feel like, oh, I'm just a defender. You're not just anything, right? As a defender, you have to know a little bit about medical, a little bit about CE, a little bit about EOD. Like, so that's what makes you multi-capable, because you need to know and understand how integrated defense works. So my offer to you would be to look at your career field as a whole. What are all the things that make your career field go? Because that's how your airmen are going to make themselves a little bit more marketable, is learning a little bit about everything. Security forces are known as like jack of all trades. Sometimes we have to do a little bit of everything. What can your airmen do to make themselves a little bit more marketable and not just have that streamline of, where are you going to be?
Pilot, hopefully.
Okay, so not just how do I take this plane up and land it, right? But also if what are the ingenuity and everything underneath your hood of your plane, like how does all that work? If I'm getting this error on my dashboard, is there something I can do from the cockpit to kind of like guide myself in a safe manner? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, that's what I would say. Just make sure that you don't have that tunnel vision of, I'm a pilot, I just need to know how to take off and land. That's not it, right?
Right. Awesome.
Thank you.
You said there's one more. We got one more question. One more question. I'm going off script here.
No, we don't.
Who?
Sure.
Did you want a question? Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me grab you the mic.
Hello, all. I'm not part of the Air Force, but my name is Mariah Brutus, and I was just wondering, you guys were talking about harmonization, and I just was wondering how each of you would kind of go about integrating harmonization within each of your leadership roles, based upon maybe even the difference in workforces or just how you lead in general.
This one actually ties in really well to his multi-capable airman question. We all have different backgrounds and different talents. So talents is something that's been highly emphasized in the last couple of years, and we're trying to actually harness those talents in and use them appropriately. So it's learning those hidden talents of your team members is a big thing. So I'll tell you a short story with that. I used to get the FTAC team, first term airman course. They used to come through my office all the time, and we would show them the building, and we would give them a whole tour of everything. And at the end of it, I would say, hey, raise your hand if you've been to like a trade school, or if you have some sort of skill outside of your AFSC that doesn't line up with your AFSC at all. And almost all of them would raise their hands. So something that I started doing, because I realized I was in that boat, and I realized so many other people were too, that I started keeping kind of like a Rolodex of all of these different airmen that have maybe coding skills or some sort of passion that they're very good at, but they would never use in their day-to-day job. And so when we would have projects come up, I'd say, oh, hey, airmen from over here can totally help with that. And I would call them up and say, hey, do you want to be involved in this wing level project? They loved it. It was the best. And so it empowers them, it uses their skills, it gets them involved in things, and overall it just makes us a stronger team.
I guess since I brought it up, it's only right that I talk on it. First of all, totally agree with my teammate. I think that it also brings a little bit of value to that airman to say, they called me to do something that I'm good at, that's not my job. And it brings a little bit more fun to the job. Everybody's not gonna wholeheartedly enjoy what they do, right? But when you go to work and you have something to look forward to, it brings a little bit more ease to going to work and putting the uniform on day in and day out, right? It can wear on you a little bit. So I think that harmonization is exactly what my teammate said, like figuring out what else do you bring to the team? What else do you bring to the fight? Because we can train you to do anything. That's the easy part. But what is it that you enjoy to do? And how can we integrate that into our mission set? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome. Outstanding Airmen, thank you so much for sharing your valued experience and perspectives with us. You've contributed to how we can embrace culture and empower people. On behalf of the U.S. Air Force Academy and our National Character and Leadership Symposium, please accept this token of our gratitude. The base of this gift is made from marble from our terrazzo. This is significant to us because all cadets have had to run the marble strips during their freshman year. We hope you will look upon this and remember your NCLS experience fondly.
Yeah, I would like to say, from my experience, I was cadet, and I tell my cadet, I'm so jealous because you have so good opportunity to be good leader. You have all the resources, you have good clubs, you have very good instructors, you have very good, you have everything very good. You have amazing dorms. My dorms, I don't have hot water, for 4 years, but for you, you have everything. So use this opportunity to be good leader. Thank you.
This concludes our session. Please share your immediate feedback in the NCLS app. Select this session and click the Rate Session button. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.